late. I suspect actually because of the weather, our 95 travelers are running behind. Mr. Atkins is almost always here like 20 minutes early, which is a little bit frustrating.
I think there's other things.
In the county?
Yeah.
Or with them?
North County.
Okay. Yeah.
There's an article in the Chronicle yesterday, so.
It was.
Yeah.
What was that?
In the Chronicle. He's been stressing.
Yeah, I'm sure he is.
So good morning.
Morning.
The Executive Committee of the Richmond Regional Transportation Planning Organization will now come to order. And welcome, Mr. Morgan.
Thank you, Doctor.
Ms. Schiffel. We do not have quorum. And so the only thing that we will be able to do today is just review this agenda. And we would not be able to take any action. Okay. And I'm not even if we have amendments to the agenda, we wouldn't be able to take action.
Right.
And we can't approve the minutes. We can go on and do the reports.
Okay, great. We'll just wanted to brief you a little bit. Dr. Newbill has this as part of her chair's report in the policy board. A little bit of background, the TPO bylaws, when they were amended, actually back when you were chair the last time, which wasn't 9 years ago, even though it's supposed to be that rotation. We went through an organizational restructure, if you will, and one of the outcomes of that in reviewing and consolidating committees was the formation of a working group that's a subcommittee of the CTAC, the Citizen Transportation Community Transportation Advisory Committee. And that working group is called the Equity Working Group. And so in the second quarter of the last quarter of 2024 in the October timeframe, we approached members of the CTAC and asked if they would be they had an appetite to activate that work group because it's in the bylaws. And there was consensus that if there are action or things for that committee to take up, then it would be a good thing to do. And so staff looked at our work program for this year, and as both of you know, one of the big priorities over the last several years, and in particular as we gear up for our long-range transportation planning efforts, is how do we get the public involved in this work? And so one of the things that the equity work group looked to be well poised to do was to be able to explore what opportunities there are to really be able to put practices in place and policies in place that would guide how we get the public involved. So we asked members of both the CTAC and the Commission's Public Outreach and Engagement Committee to volunteer if they were so inclined to serve on this equity work group. And that work group's first meeting was last Friday. So we wanted to report to the TPO policy board about that kind of chain of events. I think, and Ken Lance is here this morning, he's the chief staff person leading that work, and he has done an incredible job of putting together some research around compensation. So there's an emerging movement across the country, not a lot of evidence around it, but a lot of research that Ken has identified where organizations are looking at consideration of offering stipends for people. So I'll back up a moment. We're well aware that some of our localities provide a stipend to people who sit on regional boards.
Right.
That's a common practice. You know, we've been looking at, should we be extending that and be more thoughtful about that as it relates to our citizen members?
Yeah.
And so an opportunity could be that we create a compensation policy around, you know, providing remuneration to members of the public who volunteer to sit on steering committees and project advisory committees and things like that. There have been some practices of late in the city of Richmond and maybe in some of our other communities around actually creating ambassadorships. So during the master plan update for city's Richmond 300, there was a whole cadre of individuals who raised their hand from the community and said, I'd like to be involved in this. And I think in in part, they were provided a modest payment to be able to do that. So Ken's been doing the research around kind of best practices, things to consider. There's a lot from the administrative side, and there are pros and cons to the compensation models that are out there. To be candid, and I won't go into this great detail in the full policy board meeting, but to be candid, there are detrimental consequences to persons who could receive a stipend. So we wanna take a look at this with care, but also with the recognition that if we are relying on people to give their time and their energy and their knowledge, we wanna be mindful that that has value. And so the committee, I think rightfully so, broadened the conversation a bit to talk about, well, what are the other ways that we can incentivize, not just through monetary ways, but, you know, be mindful of what it takes to engage the public. So there were just big ideas thrown out last time, and we're gonna continue that brainstorming on a every 2-week basis, but I think it was a rich conversation, and the goal is to be able to have that work group recommend the same set of recommendations back to our public outreach committee on the commission side and the CTAC on the policy, on the TPO side, and then up through both policy making bodies, so that if we wanted to launch any kind of a pilot or any kind of a demonstration program in the next fiscal year, that could be incorporated into our budget and planning processes. So that's the current kind of activity of the work group, and then as they move forward, the hope is that they will also be the chief advisory body to staff in updating our Title VI plan as well. So that report will be part of Dr. Newbell's report for the full policy board, but I wanted to give a little bit of a deeper explanation for executive committee, just so everyone is aware of where it comes from, and you know, particularly in the evolution of new information coming out daily right now. This isn't something we just started. It's been part of a long-standing initiative of this organization.
Most of the stipends that I've gotten, either planning commission or CVTA, or that I found out about after I was appointed.
Yeah, it's not why you chose to do it,
Which
right?
is probably the better way to find out, you know, versus, oh, it pays that much. Well, you wouldn't do it for that reason, right?
Yeah, that was one of the things Ken noted. No one will earn a living by what we've been able to identify as a common practice, but.
Yeah, but I think an honorarium is really.
Oh, I agree completely.
Important component.
Yeah.
I mean, people that certainly mileage and time,
Yes.
it's not gonna offset.
Right.
You know, well, he said it's not gonna be salary, but certainly it is acknowledging the expertise, the lived experience, everything that they bring to the body. So glad we're taking a look at it. Okay.
The other thing in my report that I just wanted to share, and again, this will be included in Dr. Newbell's report to the full policy board. 2 things: we have been working with VDOT to prepare time on the agenda, on an upcoming policy board agenda, to review the request that was made, I think it was last summer, about 895. And so that is still forthcoming, and Mark Riblet and central office are working on that, and I think we'll be able to put that on the calendar for this fiscal year. In addition to that, we're continuing to work with the Port of Virginia to reschedule the port tour. And if I'm not mistaken, Janice has been in contact with your respective offices to get a sense of scheduling and things like that, so that we can kind of work that in. When we attempted to do this last fall, it was in lieu of a regular meeting, which felt like the right thing to do, but we just wanted to sort of do that recheck again and make sure that we weren't unknowingly scheduling, you know, with conflicts. So more to come on that, but we are trying to make sure that that gets back on the calendar. And that's, I think, I'll have announcements at the full policy board meeting, and Sid's gonna help me just put some things on the screen. We don't need to do it twice, but just want to make everyone aware of our current activities with the long range transportation plan, opportunities for the public to get involved, and then our big event that's happening on March 14th. That is another opportunity for the public to be involved in the input process for long range transportation plan. So we've got a nice little toolkit that for those of you that do digital comms with your constituents, you can pull a lot of good material down. If you have community meetings that you do in your districts or things like that, we've been able to put together hard copy and digital resources to share. So we just want to make you aware of where to find that information so that you can push it out to your constituents. And that's it.
Well, thank you. That concludes the.
My apologies, Dr.
Oh,
Newell.
listen,
Dean.
listen, no apology necessary. We were just going through the agenda for, but without taking action because we don't have quorum. And so, any questions?
No, no questions.
Okay, then this meeting stands adjourned. Thank you.
Okay.